Building downtown. Building downtown.
Hey, yo, it's Building Downtown. You can follow us on social media at The Building DT. You can follow and subscribe to the show on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, TalkShoe, wherever you get your podcast from. I'm your host, Jason Kelly. You can follow me at JKellyMMA. You can follow my co-host, Kirill Kasatskiy, at Krill Raps, and my other co-host, Amy Barton, at Ames Bell. So through the years of doing podcasts and covering media in different industries, I've had some real fucking strange requests, but here's one for you. Today, I get to pretend to be an old fucking lady. So let's see who catches on to this one. I think our guests might. Picture it. It's 2021. We're on the Building Downtown. It's a beautiful day in Canada, except we're in lockdown. We have the wonderful Amy Barton with us in Ohio, getting ready to make major moves in her life. Hopefully it's sunny there as well. And a man who likes to punch people in the face all the way down in Albuquerque, New Mexico, by the name of Isaac Vallie Flagg. How's it going tonight, my man?
It's going wonderful. Just feeding the dogs after work and kind of sitting down on the couch. How are you?
I'm doing good. So how did I do with my Sophia?
What's that?
How did I do with my Sophia intro from fucking Golden Girls? I hear that's your shit.
I like some old Golden Girls. Sophia is my girl. She's she's like a bitter old queen, and I kind of like that.
I haven't seen that show in fucking years, but I remember Blanche. She was the very promiscuous one, to say the least.
You would remember that, yes. What
a hoe. So,
yeah, Golden Girls is man, it used to be my shit. So that was my show with my mom. Watching that with my mom growing up, and it kind of has always stuck with me as actually kind of a cool show, you know. And looking back at it now, it's like I think I got a lot of my kind of weird humor from it too, you know. It's kind of, especially from Sophia, because she is just kind of like very sarcastic and shitty, you know, which I dig.
It's honestly not a joke. That is one of my favorite things about you, is your love for this show.
Yes.
Of all the things, that's what I love.
Yes, yeah. That's it.
She really does. Like, she has told me many a times that, like, you guys are like Golden Girls buddies and shit, and she loves that you get a kick out of the show. Don't you have like a fucking like a paperweight or some shit, or a mug or something?
I have a Golden Girls chia head and some Golden Girls socks. And it's kind of my mom, whenever a holiday rolls around, she'll give me something Golden Girls.
This is my favorite night. Okay.
That's what you need your walkout song to be, the Golden Girls theme song.
Jeez. Yeah, right?
Now we're talking. So I do hear, though, it's down to some business. You're still looking for a fight? Are you still in that predicament?
Well, yeah, definitely still looking for a fight. You know, I'm hoping with everything starting to kind of open up a little bit that they're gonna, you know, when everything really started opening, they were going after all the young guys. Managers were trying to put the prospects in, and that's all that kind of the organizations wanted. So now I'm hoping that they want an old guy to beat up. You know, maybe want to make one of their prospects look good. No, I like to use the reverse psychology and just think that they're going to beat the old guy up, because I mean that's what we're good for at this point, is getting beat up. But
what about the Jake Paul fight? Would you put your name in the mix for that if you got it?
Oh yeah, of course. But I mean, I'm just not that big of a name, you know. I am.
You're not Floyd Mayweather.
Not Floyd Mayweather, and I actually talked to a buddy of mine who is helping to find some old MMA people for like Triller and other organizations.
No. Really?
And yeah, but I'm not that big of a name, you know. I'm not what they're looking for. I'm not a Frank Mir or Anderson Silva or anything like that, you know.
Yo, that Anderson one is a little scary. I don't know if he should be boxing someone of that caliber at this point in his life.
Probably not.
And then there's, you know, Logan Paul is boxing Floyd. I just don't get it. Well, I get it. It's money. That's what it is. But I mean, anyone that thinks Logan Paul has a hope in hell, I mean, I don't know. It's just going to be like Mario Kart and he slips on a banana peel or some shit. There's no way he's going to beat Floyd Mayweather.
It's, you know, it is really, so there's just whatever they're doing with the marketing around fighting and pop culture right now is really working, because it's getting eyes on some weird matchups. So people are making money off of it. So at the end of the day, that's what everybody cares about, So I guess hats off to them for that. But I think it's just all this stuff is super weird as far as fighting sports go these days.
Yeah, it's a spectacle through and through.
Yeah.
Can we just blame the pandemic? Can we do that?
No, we can't.
Yeah, we can't. It's been going that way,
Yeah.
I wish we could, but like, it's the whole, even in MMA, like what used to be, they're going more towards kind of like the pro wrestling aspect of getting heels and stuff like that to talk trash to each other. And it's kind of, it's one of the things that I really honestly hate about the sport these days.
Yeah. I think like the start of it was probably Brock Lesnar with the UFC, but at least there was some skill there, wrestling wise, anyways, not striking. But then by the time, fast forward to CM Punk, look, what the hell are we doing here, guys? Especially in the UFC, the biggest league in the world. You're supposed to have the best fighters in the world. You wouldn't see the NHL, the NBA, or another major league doing some bullshit like that. Like Nate Diaz said one time in an interview that they wouldn't put Stephen Struve in the NBA just because he's 7 feet tall.
Right.
Wouldn't happen.
No, it wouldn't, and it's, I kind of go back and forth with it, because hats off to Phil for kind of living his dream and getting to fight in UFC. But then it's kind of like the circus sideshow on the UFC's part was kind of a bummer on that, in that respect,
Yeah. And
so,
I'm confused though with you, Ike, because you have this really interesting mix of like enjoying the freak show of it all. And like, this is a general statement, but we'll apply it to Triller and the Paul brothers and all this as well. But you seem to enjoy the freak show element of it. And you obviously always have some quip about it. But then at the same time, sometimes you seem a little irritated. Like, why are we doing this? And I just can't put my finger on which you are more of.
Well, I think the troll in me really enjoys the freak show of it, but like the serious competitor who's done this for like a lot of his life, it gets annoyed by it. I mean, it's I think all of us have I think if you aren't if you're black or white on this, because the freak show is kind of fun, if you. But and the other half of it is the serious athletic part of it is really what you're there for. But if you're so black or white that you can't see like the weird gray area and how it's kind of fun, I think you're kind of not human, or you're just super. I mean, the super polarized thing of having to hate it or having to like it of today's society, I think, is kind of bleeds over into that. I mean, like,
it's
and you
fun.
can't just.
It's fun because it's funny.
Yeah.
Right. But I really hope that Mayweather is just going to kind of turn the lights off a little bit there.
A little bit.
Calm them down. Just calm them down a little bit. I mean, you know what I mean? Like their whole, this little right that they can, you know what I mean? Come out the ring with real fighters and all that.
I think he's going to beat both of them up because Jake.
He said he wants to do it in one night. He's like, give this punk his paperwork. We're going to do it both in one night.
Yeah. Floyd will stop that whenever he wants, as long as his hands don't break.
Yeah.
They are big boys compared to him, though.
That doesn't matter.
I know.
Yeah, but they are. But I mean, Floyd is the best, arguably the best. There is today, at least. As much as I don't watch him fight.
Not getting hit. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, not getting hit.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's boxing, right? You don't get hit and then you hit somebody.
Yeah, that's for sure.
that was the best breakdown I've heard
Ever, right?
I mean, but okay, what about this Holyfield thing? Did you see the Holyfield thing earlier today?
No, what's
this?
Oh, his new thing now is that he wants to fight Jake Paul if he's offered enough money to do it.
That's what? I don't like that. I don't like that. He's too old of a man.
It just sounds weird even hearing that.
What do you think, Isaac? You think?
I love that nobody has anything to say.
Well, I mean, what is there to say? It's like
that's what I'm saying. Like, what do you?
I mean, I'd like to see Mike Tyson fight one of the Paul brothers just to see him kill the guy. But I mean, like, it's not going to happen.
I want Canelo versus Jake Paul. That's the match.
Yeah, I think it is too. But again, so the thing I give the Paul brothers is they're smart. They're handpicking their guys for. I mean, they picked the worst striker arguably in MMA, and they're kind of handpicking their guys. You know, Chris Lieben's been calling out Jake Paul, and they're not responding to Lieben at all because they know Lieben would kill him. You know.
Yeah. What's that, Amy? You want to?
Well, no, I'm just curious what, like, your overall take. Obviously, you know, we're talking about the Paul brothers and all that, but like Triller, you just mentioned, like, you know some people that are working with them. I mean, what is your overall take on Triller? Like, what is the actual goal? Are we going for legitimate boxing promotion with a tinge of concerts to bring in some people and fuckery to entertain the people who are just kind of a little jaded? Or is this just a circus? Like, what is the point of Triller?
I think it's just a circus, quite honestly. I mean, like, after that last show, I mean, like, what else could you call it? You had Oscar De La Hoya, who was, I mean, I could imagine what the green room looked like, and I imagine there was a whole lot. and Oscar kind of showed that, and it was kind of just a shit show to get all these famous people together and watch some fights and music, you know. Which again, that's kind of like the kind of like fucking weirdo in me is like, hell yeah, and then the serious fight fan is like, you know.
So who is your one phone call from jail going to be when they finally get you for streaming the last event?
You know, probably it's gonna be Cub just to say what's up. They finally got me, and this is what it's for.
I can't, bro. Like, I'm not even sold on. I wasn't online enough during that week when that came out to really have seen enough to believe that was a real thing that happened and not a bunch of photoshops and trolls. But on the off chance that was a real statement someone actually made, I just can't. Because how long have we all been laughing our complete asses off at Dana for the same thing? And if somebody could make it possible, it'd probably be more likely for it to be like WME than Triller. But like, really, can somebody confirm that this actually happened for me?
I think it's the greatest thing in the world that somebody, if this is like really, I think it's great that I think it's a great troll from Triller. And it keeps Triller relevant. People are laughing at the fact that Triller thinks that they're going to do that, but I really don't think that they think they're going to get any money. I think they're just trolling to the point to keep their name in the news, you know?
So like, it really was them trolling. Like, they weren't like they weren't photoshops of DMs and tweets and all that. Those were real.
I don't know. I mean, what else?
I hate it here.
What else could it be? I mean, like, these fucking guys are, I mean, they're obviously marketing kind of, they know what they're doing with marketing because they have us all talking about them. And then after the event, they were still talking about it in another fashion, which is a trolling thing. So whatever they're doing it right because here we are fucking talking about them.
Right. Well, and like, that's the whole shit, right? It's because I'm sitting over here like, okay, on the one hand, they are actually booking real fight, like boxing matches, like real fight. Like, granted, they're putting them on the undercard and they're not huge names, but like, they're real, actual, legitimate athletes competing against one another. And then at the same time, you've got Ric Flair refereeing a fucking slapping contest.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, in some ways, you're like, how does it get any fucking better than this? And then in other ways, you're like, how does it get any fucking worse than this?
Right, and that's ideal. I mean, look, we need to talk a little bit about you and your career because obviously we do talk a lot of MMA on this show, which is kind of what we're doing a little of. We also talk a lot of battle rap, so we do need to like do a little explaining and interviewing of who you are, but at the end of the day, I have to say that, like, if anything came of Ike from this day forward, like, we'll get into this, but like, you're out here, you're bare knuckle. Give me Jake Paul. Give me any promotion. I'll go to Japan. Look, if anybody can pick you up and do something to make us all happy with you, I hope it's Triller. I really.
Oh God, I kind of hope so too. I mean, again, like, so. The whole thing with fighting these days for me, it's like I'm not going to be a champion anywhere, so it's just getting eyes on me for other stuff and still having a little bit of fun, right? And what a better platform than some fucking freak show of a of a thing, you know. I mean, what that Triller card got eyes on it, like whether it was streamed or not, people saw it, you know. So it kind of fits into my whole end game for what I want to do with it, you know.
Did you think nearly 2 decades ago, walking out into a King of the Cage event, that you might someday be talking about fighting on an undercard after Bieber gets off stage?
No, I mean, no, not one bit.
This isn't how it's supposed to end.
No, it's not. But I didn't think so. So going to that, I didn't think that the MMA was going to make it on to Sports Center, and it did. I remember when the first Sports Center highlight of MMA happened, and me and Cobb were like, "Holy shit, this is like fucking for real," you know. So again, I think that the evolution of combat sports in the last 25 years is rad because of that, you know. So, but you know, again, it's also fucking weird too.
Another real weird fucking thing going on right now. Have you seen this Joshua Fabia shit with Diego Sanchez?
Yes.
What the fuck? I guess you must know Diego from Albuquerque, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's not like we're tight.
To some extent, and it's not like I'm trying to get you to, like, you know, you guys are tight, give us the behind the scenes or whatever. But I mean, I figure, you know, you have some sort of relationship with him. But regardless, I think that I was watching Mike Swick do an interview with Josh Thompson the other day, and I guess Mike Swick recently had Fabia and Diego on his show. And like Josh Thompson pointed out, because Mike Swick was on The Ultimate Fighter 1 with Diego. They've known each other for years. And like Josh Thompson pointed out, that's not the same guy you ever knew, no matter how well you knew him or for how long you knew him, how much time you spent with him. This guy is out of his fucking mind. With Joshua Fabia, I have never, ever seen such a fucking scumbag in my life. Like,
yeah, it sucks, man. I mean, it really does, you know, on a personal level, right? I mean, so just on a human level, you hate to see one human get taken advantage of in any way like this, you know, whether it be what's his face, that Hollywood producer who was taking advantage of women,
Weinstein.
Weinstein,
yeah.
Or if it's a guy like Fabia who's just taking advantage of this, of a guy who number one wants to believe, and number two might have some real CTE issues, you know. It sucks, man. It's a real fucking bummer to see, you know. And that's just one human to another. It's like, man, this is like some really bad shit, you know. And you hate seeing it. And then on the other hand, I mean, like, there's nothing good in this, you know. You know, it sucks that Diego's being taken advantage of. It sucks that Diego is falling for it, you know, and it sucks that he can't see his way out of it. Like the Stockholm syndrome with that guy right now is real, you know?
Yeah.
Fabia tanked that dude's career. You know, Diego could have picked anybody he wanted for that last fight because the UFC fucking loves the dude, you know? And he got it in his head that Cowboy's a good fight. And then Josh Fabia did some really weird shit with the rest of us, looking for a lawsuit after he was fighting because of brain damage or CTE or whatever they were doing, you know. And it sucks, man. I don't know. I thought the Fabia thing was laughable when I first saw all this stuff, because just like anything else, you're like, oh, this guy's gonna get away from this other guy. But now it's just like, it's a whole new serious thing where it's like, fuck, man, somebody get this guy away from him, you know?
Yeah. Have you seen that recent footage that they say leaked? I don't know how something that can leak when it was only Diego and Josh in the room, but Diego's hanging upside down. He's punching him in the head and shit. Have you seen that?
Yeah. And
that's
it's like
fucking disturbing, man.
It is, because it's like, you know, they're talking about Diego's damage and, you know, the whole thing with Josh Fabia talking to Sean wanting medical records and stuff like it. It's like, dude, you're not interested in this dude's health, obviously, because fucking you're punching him and kicking him in the head, causing more trauma. You don't care about this dude's health or anything like that. Not one fucking bit. So it's like, you know, the whole humor kind of behind this is like long gone. Now it's like really trying to get I think it's getting somebody away from a dangerous human being who's taking advantage of a situation, you know?
Yeah. What it was real crazy from the start too, how like it wasn't like Fabia's you never even heard rumblings of him in any arena of combat sports, not just MMA. And Diego's move to, get rid of his coaches and go solely with him from the start was real fucking weird. But just like you said, you didn't think it was going to turn into all this.
No, and it kind of was. It was interesting, and Diego's always been fairly interesting.
To say the least.
He really, it's always been super, super interesting. And so you're kind of looking at it going, ooh, how's this going to play out? And then it really kind of devolved pretty quickly over the past, year and a half or 2 years into holy fuck, dude, what's going on?
I mean, here's the thing though. Diego was Triller vibes before Triller was Triller vibes, right? And so half serious, half freak show. Always has been. That's why everybody has always loved him. But I have to say that it's been longer than Fabia being around that people have been concerned for his mental well-being. So I, as somebody who has not followed this as closely as I once did, have been real caught up recently because I didn't even know who the fucking guy was. I didn't even hear Fabia's name. I missed the whole chasing people around the cage with a knife bit. I missed the Diego firing everybody and bringing him on bit. I didn't even catch any of that. And so part of me for a hot minute was like, all right, we've gone through this with a lot of fighters over the years. Jens Pulver was one. I mean, Matt Hughes, even after the train thing, was one where we go, what about mental health? What about mental health? When do we protect these people from themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And what can we do? How do we do that? But Diego is kind of an anomaly because it's never been clear where the line is with Diego's just kind of Diegoing and he's kind of goofy and he's kind of crazy and Diego has actual problems. And to me, that seems like for somebody that didn't follow the drama and didn't follow the circus and didn't even hear about this guy until Diego's release and went and looked and had a whole host of information to look at one time, not gradually. That seems like where Diego fell through the cracks is because Diego loved having this weird persona and bouncing all over the place anyway. You can't take somebody like that and go, oh, you're mentally ill when they may not be. So it was easy for people to just go, oh, Diego's just Diegoing until you finally saw all this footage later.
Well, and I honestly, again, going back to now this Fabia guy, I think that he knows that and he's taking full advantage of that too because it really is I mean, you don't know again where Diego's Diegoing and where things are getting really serious because of how Diego is, and I think Fabia, the kind of the little weasel that he is, weaseled his way in on that, and now it's really hurting somebody,
Right. Oh. So Fabia's no idiot. He's just an asshole. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know what Diegoing is like because I'm not too sure who he is because I'm just getting into this stuff more heavy and detailed. But what this sounds like? This sounds like some sort of a brainwash. When people give up everything and go heavy into something, it sounds like a sect.
Well, so it's up there, Rock Terrio for you guys, for the Canadians. I mean, he brainwashed. Do you guys know who he is? The Canadians up there.
No, I'm not sure. I'm Russian. Who? I'm a Russian Canadian. So I'm
okay. Who are you talking about? Look up Rock or Terrio or whatever after we're done here, and it's like any good cult leader, I mean, he ingratiates himself, and then by the time he gets ultimate control, then you really see what the harm is, and it is like a sect. It's like a religious sect who's now, or not just religious. It's like any kind of sect who's now gone from being all peace and love to the whole, now we're gonna fuck your whole shit up and steal all your money and isolate you from your family, kind of a thing. I mean, it's like cult leader 101 that he's following.
I just googled this shit on my phone. This guy is nuts. I've never heard of this dude before, But how the fuck do you all the way down in New Mexico know about some Canadian religious fucking cult? You could have just went Jim Jones or some shit.
I know, but I wanted to throw. I like to throw the regional stuff in there too. I was fuck yeah, Canadian, because that guy is fucking that rock. Terrio guy is a fucking nut.
Yeah,
he's like oh yeah. So one of the podcasts I listen to is called Last Podcast on the Left, and they cover a lot of true crime stuff. And I heard of them through that. And then of course I go down the wormhole with stuff. So that's why I knew about the Canadian thing. I was hoping you guys were going to pick up on that, but
I was going to say, was there like a Netflix show?
No, I've been listening to a lot of I've always kind of had this weird thing for serial killers and true crime and aliens. And these guys put a humorous spin on some of the most horrific stuff that you could think of. So they're like my new shit recently, the Last Podcast guys.
There's a show that it's not on anymore. It only has like 2 or 3 seasons, but I came across it recently. It's People Magazine. It's called People Investigates. And they have 3 seasons of just cult people, like different, and it's all like real stuff. It's not like a fictional series or anything like that. I watched like 4 or 5 episodes so far. It's cool. I can send you the link to fucking watch it online if you want.
Yes, please. Man.
Yeah, it's really good. Speaking of crazy ass Canadians, Luca Magnotta, you familiar with him?
I am not. No.
Oh, you didn't watch Don't Fuck with Cats? Amy, how far did you get in it?
Oh, is that okay.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yo, he was something that actually got obviously this fucking Rock Terrio guy's around decades ago. Luca Magnotta was playing maybe 10, 12 years ago. But yeah, he that was pretty crazy. That rocked the fucking country because we don't really have shit like that going on here.
You're not American.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
Go ahead,
not like a Thursday in America or whatever.
No shit. It's fucking 2 riots, a school got shot up, fucking bomb goes off somewhere.
You know what's funny? We talk about, I just want to say this. We talk about fighting and battle rap the most. And what's actually the truth, I think, between the 3 of us, and then you're definitely in line with the people we like to talk to. I think probably everybody we've ever talked to is into this kind of shit. We could spend a full hour on true crime shit, and we never ever do. It never ever is actually a thing that comes up. So this is very, 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 very happy moment for me.
Nice. Yeah, I the true crime stuff. I mean, so as an American and somebody who's we have our fair share of our serial killers, not like everybody else doesn't, but we have our fair share. But it's just weird to me how we have it's I think our fascination with violence is definitely is something that I enjoy. I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but you know what I mean? I mean, it's something I get off on for sure.
Very American of you, Ike.
Yeah, it's super American.
No, Jason actually has been telling me for probably, I don't know, better part of a year to watch Don't Fuck with Cats. And he even told me what it was about. And I just am really bad at watching things. And so whatever. Literally last night I watched 1 episode, and frankly I don't remember a single second of this. I don't remember the cat thing. I don't remember hearing about this guy. I don't remember this happening in Canada. This could be a movie for all I know. I didn't even know this happened until last night, and it is wild. This is very, very not what I would picture in Canada.
No.
Yeah, you always think of maple syrup and lumberjacks and nice people. And it's so so I think that's also the fascination with that rock guy is you're how the fuck did Canada turn out such a violent, scummy fuck? Because everybody seems so nice.
Well, you don't know these 2 guys you're talking to right now.
Yeah.
So they might change their mind.
Yeah, there's been a few fucking creeps up here. Robert Picton, the pig farmer who was fucking picking up prostitutes and fucking killing them.
What?
Yeah, burying them in his pig farm.
What?
Pigs destroy a body pretty quick, right? They say that there's only teeth stain shit. That's it. Other than that, pigs destroy everything.
Oh my god!
And with Picton, they didn't know exactly how many people he had killed because he was picking up prostitutes and shit,
street kids and shit.
And so and there wasn't a whole lot of evidence left. Pigs do a number to people.
Yeah.
You are a freak. This is amazing.
What's that?
You're just amazing.
Oh yeah.
I would like everybody listening to the show to know that you are listening to an ordained minister right now.
Yeah, and I'm an ordained minister. And a recovering heroin addict. I kind of hit all like the fucking all the fucking awesomeness.
It's living life.
On a serious note, like obviously I'm sure you would guess that would probably have been something that would come up on this show, but you just beat us to it. But what, like, you went from, and maybe I missed something, so stop me if I did. I usually do. You went from a few years ago, okay, y'all, this is what happened. My wife is a bomb-ass bitch for staying with me. She deserves all the credit. I did some dumb shit. I never really said anything. I'm going to tell everybody now. To what seemed like relative, just normalcy. Not really a lot of anything about that. And now, very recently, it seems like you're back to mental health, drug addiction. This is important. Like, what happened in the years in between there?
Well, so it's always important to me. And it's... So it's been important to me, and I think I just like anything else, I kind of ebb and flow with how much I want to talk about it, because I like having my social media kind of just be fuck around sometimes, but then stuff happens, especially being in the recovery community. I lose people that I know on a regular basis. They die from addiction, and then it reminds me why I need to be talking about mental health, or why I need to be talking about seeking help for addiction or things like that. So I think that I just go back and forth because it's a lot easier and it's a lot nicer to just talk about dumb shit that I like talking about on social media. But mental health and addiction are important things to talk about. So I kind of go back and forth with it depending on where I'm at or what happens in life. A lot of times loss will do it or whatever, and I've been losing people a lot lately, and people, I think, I think not just personally, but us as a world, because of the pandemic, have been losing people a lot. And I think that we need to talk. I think that it doesn't get talked about enough. So I try to now mix in a good amount of my fuck around on social media with some mental health stuff. I think that I actually think I'm doing a mental health thing with that Dean asked me to do with Jared Gordon, possibly another guy. And I don't know if I can say who he is, but a Zoom mental health thing, which, it's always there. It's just how much I like to talk about it publicly versus how much I just like to talk shit on social media,
So for those that may know who you are, but never caught your larger storytelling moment, you were using when you were actively fighting.
Yeah, I was. So I've always kind of struggled with some form of addiction. And I've been clean for large chunks of time, but then this last time when, after I made it to the UFC, I hurt my back and got really heavily into opioids. And then went, obviously to heroin and stuff like that. And, but yeah, so I was actively using while I was fighting. I think my Gomi fight, I always tell people I was kicking dope the whole week that I fought Takanori Gomi. I remember my now deceased manager was with me, and we were in the room, and he was watching me kick dope, going, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I obviously wasn't telling him, but.
Wait a minute. When you're fighting in the UFC, I guess I feel like I should know this because I feel like we've talked about this in different contexts a lot over the years. But I mean, even at lower levels, I used to draw blood work for medicals for regional promotions, and in addition to HIV tests and whatever, they would do drug panels. Did they back then not do illicit drug panels, only whatever local?
So they would do. So they would either. So locally they test depending on what commission you're going with. They do random drug testing. Right. With the UFC, I always knew I had a window to stop using, and cut weight and kind of flush everything out, and then they would test me. And this is like pre-USADA. So I would, back then they would just do physicals and EKGs and stuff, and they wouldn't do drug testing till the day of the fight, or to the night or day of the fight. And so I knew I had a window of opportunity to get clean. And my window of opportunity, I would stop for camp, and then it became a couple weeks out, and then it became like I was snorting oxys right before I got on the plane to go to the UFC, because I knew that was enough time where I could still kick and fight and not pop come fight night when they test me.
So I find this so fascinating. So like, stop me if this is stuff you don't want to explain. But if for you, okay, well, let me back up a step. For you, would you call yourself like an addictive person, or are you just specifically like, I had an issue with drugs?
I think a lot of fighters are addictive type of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and still today, even my wife, when I talk about stopping fighting, she's like, well, you're going to need something that's going to keep your adrenaline up, because you're just that kind of person. I think I like whatever the chemical that I like feeling different, and fighting and drugs make me feel different, So, I would definitely say I'm an addictive personality, and especially with drugs and alcohol. I love drugs and alcohol, there's no two ways around that, and being an addict, I just got something that clicks in me differently than most normal people when I put them into my body.
Well, no, but that's what I find so fascinating, is that if you are that person, that you also would be like, well, I just have to stop for this many weeks or this many days. It's no problem. And then I'll just, so I don't pop. Like, that is fascinating to me, that you're not only able to do that in a pinch or to not go to jail, but like on a regular basis, every camp, every fight, that you can kick it, you know what I mean? Like for a few days or a couple weeks, and then you're like, hey, now I'm done with that. It's so interesting to me.
Well, it would so the span would get shorter and shorter, and like I would use immediately after the fight, and like initially it was like for a camp, and I could kind of like white knuckle it my way through the camp, and then like I said, then the next fight it was a couple weeks, and then then the Gomi fight it was like it was very short window of time, and then after the Gomi fight it was a daily deal, you know what I mean? And so I think it's less of like the being able to stop and like and more of just seeing the progression of the disease of addiction kind of going full force, going from not as bad to like full force. If you think of addiction as a disease, it's like somebody with cancer, when they first get cancer, it's not like they're just riddled with the cancer. It's a progressive thing, and it generally eats away at you. And I think addiction is kind of the same thing. Addiction will give you, it starts kind of small enough where you think you're okay, and then eventually it's just it just eats away at you, and it's depending on the person, and it's either a slow process or some people just shoot downhill real fast.
Were you using drugs recreationally before you were a professional fighter? Had fighting as a career, not even UFC level, you know what I mean? Even on the regional circuit where you were showing promise, were you using whatever it may have been at that time?
No, so up until and even for the fight with Eves, so I got sober when I was real young, and then I stayed sober for a while, and then I stopped, or then I had another kind of like where I relapsed, and then I stayed sober again till right about after the Eves fight. And my memory is kind of shit, so I think it was around that time, but like I was pretty clean up until then, because I had some stuff that I wanted to do, and I knew that I always knew I had issues with drugs and alcohol. I just didn't want to be what I considered an addict. I kind of wanted to be able to control it. So that was always in the back of my head. And every time I used, I showed that I real quickly couldn't control it.
And was it something you had to hide from your peers, especially like UFC level training partners, friends of yours, people in that industry? Was it something that you had to hide, or are there a few people? I'm not going to get you to name names. This isn't a baited question or anything, but were there a few people that, you know, they like to get high too? So like, you know, you pair up with them or whatever.
Well, there are a few people, right? But I think that, again, my whole thing has always wanted to seem normal, kind of, or normal-ish. So I would hide it from everybody I could. Like, there's a few people who knew because they've struggled with it or they've been around it in their lives, so they knew when I was using. But I'm not a very social person. Like the whole reason I like to get high is to not feel, you know. So it's like I would rather be in my garage doing heroin than I would out drinking and partying. I know that sounds fucked up, but that's
I get it. I get it.
Well, no, that's why this last year was such a horrifying thing. I mean, a pandemic and lockdowns is a wet dream for an addict.
Yeah, and that's been why we're seeing a lot of people fucking relapse and die is because, you know, like there's no kind of like, there's no other social structure for people to go with, you know. If you went to 12-step meetings and stuff like that, all those were shut down. People got really disconnected in general from other people, you know, and it sucked.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you're not covering your tracks and making excuses. Everybody is staying home. You don't have to say shit about shit.
Yeah. You don't have to say shit about shit, right? You're at home. So, and it's been a really scary time for, I mean, again, getting back into the mental health thing, you know, if you struggle with addiction and depression and things that want you isolated anyway, it really sucked. But then, like, you're seeing a lot of people who don't struggle with that stuff, like, and you're seeing the toll that isolation does to people. And it's you know, it drives motherfuckers crazy. You know, the whole cabin fever thing is real for, you know, and just some people get it worse than others.
Yeah.
So to back up kind of a step though, whenever you had your moment, you know, and it's different for everybody. Sometimes the light just goes off. You have a meaningful conversation. You hit rock bottom. You go to jail. You get sick. You almost die. Different for everybody. But once you had that moment, what then was your immediate motivation? Was it my wife and my family? I mean, I know the answer to this, but was it my wife and my family? I want to get back to fighting at a healthy level. Like, what was the first thing in your head that you were like, I got to change for this?
So initially, it was partially wife and family, but I mean, like, also at the time, it was just, I was really just beat up. I mean, like, just beat up by the disease. And my wife was threatening to leave me anyway, when she checked me into a rehab. So I was like, cool. I get it. I completely get it. 'Cause I wreaked havoc in her life. I just got to get sober. And that's kind of what it was. But yeah, of course, for me, you know, I love my daughter and my wife like you wouldn't believe. So that's a huge motivating factor. But really, it really was just being beat to the point of like kind of surrendering. You know, I mean, I had no other options. You know, and I had been to jail and still kept getting high after that, and I was facing prison, and all that kind of stuff, and kept getting high. So, and I was on the verge of losing my family. So at a certain point, it's just like, even with nothing left to lose, I was just like, man, I just got to stop. This is just kicking my ass, you know? And I wish that I could say that it was like awesome moral compunction. And I was like this moral person, but it just,
I mean, you can give yourself a little credit. Come on.
Yeah. I guess, you know, I was ready to go be homeless in my car rather than stop using drugs when my wife asked me to, because I couldn't fathom the idea of stopping using heroin, you know? So it wasn't morality, and it wasn't because I'm such a good husband. It was just, I was really beat up, you know, and in a way that I've never been beat up before. And I wanted to quit using with all my being, like, you know, and I couldn't. So I was just like, all right, I don't know what it's going to take, but I got to stop this. And so I just kind of gave up, you know?
You know, I can't stress this enough. I just ate dinner and I don't want to walk around the corner to get the mail. I can't imagine snorting crushed up pills and shooting up and being a professional athlete, bro. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was it's wild. I can't, so looking at that stuff now, I'm like, fucking wow, that was fucking crazy, because it's like I don't have the drive to fucking get off the couch tonight, really, to go train, you know? So I was like, how the fuck was I doing all that shit and fucking trying to maintain a normal life and trying to be around the family and stuff? Like it's hard work fucking trying to lie to everybody.
Yeah. And like you were just saying about like you're ready to go live in your car because you didn't want to quit being high. And you know, you're about to lose your family, lose everything, right? But like you mentioned earlier, you like the type of addict you are, the type of high, the type of buzz, the type of atmosphere you want. It was sitting in your garage by yourself and numb to everything. Now you got all these problems, prison, financial problems, marriage problems, all these fucking issues, and you just want to be numb, right? See, you're caught in that weird ass fucking spot. Was it ever you got drove to a point? Because you're at a point where like, you know, you feel like there's no exit. Right. No matter you can't deal with one and the other one's not acceptable. So what do? Were you ever at a point where suicide was contemplated?
So I would never consider myself suicidal. I mean, there was a couple times when I like would go off because of trauma stuff that I've kind of gone through. But like really the whole thing was maybe I'll just do enough where I won't wake up, you know? You know, so it wasn't, I don't know if it was ever really suicidal, but I was like, man, it would just be cool if I could just go to sleep and then that was that, you know, or just use enough where I could just go, you know, just kind of, that was it, you know. And looking back at that, like as you know, I talked to my wife about this, is like, that's the most fucking selfish thing I probably could have done. Like I couldn't imagine being my wife waking up next to a dead husband, really not knowing what was going on, because I was lying to her about all this stuff too. It was just shitty, you know? So suicide, not so much, but just not really caring even if I lived or died, you know?
Yeah. And is fentanyl a thing down in New Mexico?
Oh my God.
I mean, I know it's a thing.
Come on, dude.
A thing like, well, fucking.
Are drugs the thing where you're from?
No. But fentanyl is fucking like wiping out the province of Ontario. I couldn't tell you how many people I know, not like close personal friends, some of them, yes, but not just that. People I went to school with, people I know through people, acquaintances that are fucking gone because of fentanyl. And I know in the States, it's an epidemic, but I would assume, you know, it might not be in every city, every little town, everything where it's everywhere.
It's everywhere here. And Albuquerque is no stranger to it, you know? And, I got real lucky I think I got real lucky that I got clean right before. I mean, people were cutting stuff with fentanyl before I was clean, but like before it got like really, really prevalent, you know, I got clean, you know, and I'm super grateful for that, because it's killing people like crazy, you know?
Wait, what year were you in rehab?
2018.
Really? I thought it was okay. I was a couple years off. All right.
Yeah, it was just I've been clean for 3 years now, or a little bit over, and I mean, fentanyl was still big, but it wasn't like it is now, where you know, like where it's really, really bad. You know, I think they had really just started cracking down on the opiates and people over prescribing and kind of getting into the big pharma fucking everybody up thing, you know? And then right after that, people started pressing the pills with fentanyl and everything like to look like the pills. So, and cutting everything. But yeah, it's just as bad here as it is anywhere, you know? And Albuquerque and New Mexico are very much the Wild West, and there's a very strong drug culture here. So you see it a lot, you know, and you see kids getting into it, and it's fucking scary, man.
Not to go on a super random side note here, but one time I flew through Albuquerque. I had a connecting flight, and I remember sitting at the airport. I think I posted a picture, and I was just like, where am I? Like, is Albuquerque proper like a big town, a small city? Like everybody knows it's there because it's what's there. But like, what's in Albuquerque?
So it is a small city, and we're actually. So here's my little my plug for Albuquerque. We're actually we are a small city that's growing, and we've luckily got like things like Netflix and Intel, and we've got some Amazon stuff, and Facebook is moving here. So we're a growing city, and probably when you passed through here, it was still very much, and it's like, yeah, what the fuck is in Albuquerque kind of a thing. At that point, it was just like we had fighting gyms.
Well, but like when you're sitting at the airport, all you can see is dirt.
Yeah, and that's still, so the airport is just south of town, and now there's like Netflix has a studio right there by it. But yeah, you're in the very south part of town when you fly into to the airport, so all you see is dirt, and it's, there's a lot of, Albuquerque has a lot of beauty, and New Mexico has a lot of beauty. You just don't see it when you fly into the Sunport,
So would you say that, like, and I asked this as somebody who like went to high school and spent a long time in a very small town, which had very high drug usage rates. Would you say part of it is geography? I mean, it's maybe a small city, but it's an isolated place. Like
yeah, it's an isolated place, and there's not. So yeah, so there, again, like anywhere, it's like same thing with most small towns, right? It's isolated. There's not a huge push for real solid education, and we show it, and yeah, like there's not a whole lot of stuff for the kids here to do. I mean, like, and there's generations upon generations of people who have been, doing the same stuff, just like any other smaller town, it's, it is that. So
you go to rehab, you come home. How soon thereafter do you book a fight?
So I guess fairly soon, because I think I got out, and then like by a few months later, Joe Stevenson hit me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to try this bare knuckle thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good time." So it was just a few months later, and looking back at it, I probably shouldn't have jumped right back into it like that, but it was kind of, I wanted to see what I could do with fighting again, because I really, as I was coming up in fighting, and I think I could have done a lot better had I not got so messed up. So I wanted to see what I could do when I was clean again,
Mm-hmm. And now that you're fully clean and on a good stride, and hopefully you'd never see relapse again, back to trying to book a fight. Is it bare knuckle only you're looking for, or would you take an MMA fight? Would you take a straight up boxing fight with gloves?
Yeah, I've been looking to try to do mixed martial arts again, because I started going back to one of the Jackson's gyms and actually landed Venata, one of the guys who's fighting this weekend.
Yeah.
He got me to fall back in love with the MMA aspect of it,
Mm.
And so I want to do some MMA. It's just the thing that we're running into. Cub is now managing me since our manager passed, and Juan and Bellator don't want to mess with older UFC guys, and I'm not that big of a name, so it's been hard to find a fight just for that reason. Nobody wants an old guy, and nobody wants a UFC vet. It looks like they're trying to build their own brand, which is smart, but yeah, MMA,
I mean, there are so many up and coming promotions, especially that are trying to get active now that things are opening up. I feel like something's got to give eventually.
Oh, well, I mean, something has to give. It's just, you're seeing everybody. So I'm seeing everybody else get active again. And it's like, okay, when's it my turn kind of a thing, it's just that it's the impatience kind of thing on my part, and everything kind of happens when it's supposed to. So I'm waiting for it to happen, but I still get impatient like anybody else,
What about overseas opportunities? Is that something you've tried to explore?
I have. I'd like to fight in ACA or Risen or something like that. I mean, like really fighting in Japan, I think would be super cool just because it's fighting in Japan.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to fight there and never have been able to. So I like I like the old Pride rule set. Japan seems to be okay with having that. So I want to do some of that again,
And look, what's better than hearing Lenny Hart scream your name at least once?
Yeah, that's another thing, right? Is I've never got to hear that. And that'd be pretty badass is to hear her scream my name, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no shit. And imagine like if it, depending on like what the venue is, like he could be in a place be like, yo, this is where Fedor fought Nogueira or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Right. Like,
Yeah.
because in MMA terms, like we don't go back as far as boxing does with the history where it's like this is where Ali fought whoever, right? So it's something like Japan and that kind of setting, especially Fedor, right? He didn't have a ton of fights on American soil, especially, you know, classics like that, ones that really are legendary fights. So yeah, Japan for goddamn sure. That's a place that I've always wanted to go. But people tell me when you're like 6'5" and white and have blue eyes, you look like a dinosaur over there.
Yeah. Yeah. The Japan is big on and always has been kind of big on the freak show thing. So when they get big ass, either big Americans, especially that are like loud, it's like, that's like their thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So are you, I mean, in a perfect world, are you looking to travel around and take, you know, different fights, different styles, or are you, if it happened, looking for a contract?
Contracts are great. Again, being a little bit older, stability is nice. Being able to count on something is nice. And I thought I was getting that out of the BKFC, but they just never really seemed like they're that stable with some of the guys, you know? So, you know, I appreciate what they did, but I want someplace that's going to fight me, you know?
Is it a different business dealings sort of thing with bare knuckle fighting than it would be with MMA? Like, I'm not trying to say like, you know, it must be like scummy or slime ball or whatever, because, you know, it is a more violent thing. At least it appears that way. But is business done a lot different? You hear things, but who knows if they're true, where you hear ridiculous shit. Like I read months ago that they gave Paige Van Zandt $8 million. I'm like, that's how you go under. That's how you tank. Like, what's the business proceedings like? Are the conversations? Are you involved with any of them? Or is it more so management care of it?
My management was more doing that. And, you know, I don't believe that they gave Paige Van Zandt $8 million.
No.
You know, but it seems like they have more of a boxing model where they're trying to do one or two big stars. And then,
okay.
You know, which again makes sense. You know, Dave Feldman's a boxing promoter, so he's going to keep doing boxing kind of stuff, you know, which is understandable, you know, and it's working for him. I just, you know, I'm just used to the MMA business model of kind of getting in with an organization and fighting for them for a while, you know?
Yeah.
So I like that, especially again with my old age and having a little bit more stability in the fighting world. You know, I mean, it's not my only my main source of income, but it's nice to count on it if it's there, you know, instead of kind of like going from fight to fight, just hoping on stuff, you know?
And just to be clear, you would probably be what people would consider old for a fighter. You're not that old a human.
No. We're when we're talking fighting terms, though, 43 is pretty fucking dinosaurish for a fighter, though.
Sure. Know? I just like for anybody who might not be that familiar with you, like we're not agreeing with some 60-year-old man trying to book a fight.
Yeah. We're looking for the senior league, hoping that this old guy just gets his head kicked in.
Right. Bring back Tony. We need a Masters League.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I mean, and it's funny because I always joke about being the old guy, and I definitely feel old. Like, but at a certain point, you know, fighting, we all feel old. You know, talking to Ray Borg, who's 27, who's been fighting for just as long as I have. That dude feels old too. You know, it's just your body gets beat up doing this kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah. Now, if you ended up in a contract, let's say like a 4-fight deal, and you know that's going to happen over the course of 2 years, do you do what you're doing? Eke everything out in the evenings and weekends, or do you pop over to another gym? Do you cut back your hours at work? Like, what do you do?
So I'm hopefully getting to the point in my actual career where I'm gonna have to be on the job less. But you know, I mean, like if they're giving me, you know, again, I know that this is a limited amount of time on stuff, so cutting back a little bit is something that I've talked to my wife and stuff about. And if you know, I mean, if the UFC happened to call me, you know, and it was like, hey, we need you to step in and we'll give you a contract, yeah, then of course I'm going to go for the gusto. I mean, like, you know, I would owe it to myself to do that, right? that's the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. So, again, my family comes first, and MMA is very much a passion of mine, but it's also not, it's not a long-term career goal and it shouldn't be for most people, so I'm not, of course I'd go for it, but I also know what the reality of the situation is,
When you look at some guys like friggin' Jon Jones, even though he's had, the different, whatever you want, controversial moments throughout his career, but the longevity he's had and the performances he puts on every time at the gate. Demetrius Johnson was another one for a long time. When you look at guys like that, because you're old in like terms of MMA years, right? Like you said, as a fighter, the wear and tear on your body, everything like that. Like, what do you wonder to someone who does the same thing? Like, do you wonder like what is going on inside their bodies that keeps them going for that long and performing at that high of a level?
Well, I mean, part of it is youth, I mean, part of it is the wonders of youth, and it's just they're younger dudes, and they've always been younger dudes, and guys like John and DJ and some of those guys are also freak athletes too. I mean, like, okay. But I mean, they've always had youth on their side. John got into this extremely young, and I always joke again with like Landon. Landon's 28 or 29 now, and I'm like, holy shit!
That's
I remember. It? Yeah,
wow,
he's still.
I thought he'd be a little older than that.
Yeah, he's still a real young guy. So it's all these guys at a high level. It's a very much a young man's game. So they have youth on their side, which it is what it is.
Yeah, and especially as the sports developed, I remember like years ago we get like a Michael McDonald came in. I think he fought at bantamweight, or even John who was talking about Roy McDonald is another one. They kind of come in training MMA right from the start. You think right. There's a benefit to that, like as opposed to what we'd see in the past where a guy would have a base and then build off that?
I think there's a huge benefit to that. That's why you're seeing guys. That's what guys are coming into this like again. Okay, so Ray, I'll bring up Ray Borg again because I think he's a perfect example. Like, he's very much the hybrid, right? Like he was a wrestling grappler, but he's like he started at a young age being an MMA guy, and I think that guys, when they do that, you're not having to play catch up with all the sports, like no matter who you are in the old school, if you're a wrestler and you came up wrestling, you're playing catch up with the striking, and I think that those guys, the younger guys, aren't playing catch up with their careers, and it shows. Like Rory McDonald's a perfect example. That dude has never. I mean, he's always been an MMA fighter.
Yeah, yeah, and he came in like fucking like a tornado. He's one that I'm surprised never became a UFC champion.
Yeah, me either, because he's really good.
Yeah. And I think that beating that Robbie Lawler fucking laid on him really took a lot out of his career.
Yeah, I think when you take a beating like that from Robbie Lawler, you really start to rethink what you want.
All your decisions.
Yeah, all your decisions in life. I mean, like, taking a beating. If you're anybody and like you take a beating like that, and your reaction is just like to shrug it off, you're a psycho.
I mean, he is a psycho, so there's that.
Yeah, but
yeah.
So wait, you mentioned in passing if the UFC happened to ask you to step in, slim to none. I disagree with that statement only because once things open back up, with the clip they're at with cards and their propensity for pulling local guys for cards in every city they're in, I would argue that slim to none maybe one peg lower than your likelihood. I feel like you'd have a better chance because you have fought for them before. But that being said, you have fought for multiple promotions. And in the time periods in which you have fought in those promotions, there wasn't a lot of change or movement or big public outcries about fighter pay like there is now and unionizing. Like, well, what is your take on all that now as somebody who's just like, I really just want to fight for a couple more years?
I think so. I think unionizing in any field is great. It's how the American middle class and lower middle class have been able to make a real life for themselves. I mean, you saw it with the auto workers, even in the film industry. You know, the film industry depends heavily on SAG for good reason. You know, and I think unionizing in any way, shape, or form is good. You know, I guess I'm kind of, this is I'm putting my lefty hat on now, and that you know, unions are a great thing, and I hope that fighters do get unionized and kind of get paid more, and some things happen. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I don't think it'll ever happen with the amount of fighters who are still willing to kind of fill in the spots when they're not, you know, and when other fighters are talking about unionizing, you know. So
did you have any experience? I mean, not necessarily with UFC, but like with any promotion, did you have any instances where it wasn't maybe like, I wish I was getting paid more or anything like that, but like where you absolutely got fucked, like financially, I mean, medical, anything that was like notable to tell a story about after?
No, I mean, I was a victim of like fighting in the Dominican Republic where we all got screwed on a card, but other than not getting paid, I've never been, you know, like there's never been anything where I'm like, wow, that's really horrible, you know, as far as a promotional thing, you know.
People have been bitching about fighter pay for forever, but like, you know, everybody wants to make more money. I get that. And there are sometimes the most recent one that just comes to mind, it was a few years ago, Tanya Evinger got paid something like $3,500, and it was like a guarantee. She had no win bonus, and she won the fight. And I was just like, $3,500 for that. And I mean, you know, Tanya Evinger isn't exactly Brock Lesnar or something like that, right? But still, it's Tanya Evinger. You'd think at this point in her career, she should be making more than that. Now, even when I used to cover MMA and combat sports, I never went on rants about this shit because it's the same as like judging. I don't have any ideas to solve it, so what am I gonna do? When you see fighter pay, obviously you'd like your pay higher, but is it like, do you get it? Like, yo, this is what the industry standard is. This is what you get paid. If you sign up, you should understand that going in. Or do you? Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's I kind of think that's a real cold-blooded way to look at it. You know, because so the only reason it's the industry standard is because that's what one person or a group of people said it is. You know.
Okay.
Who are turning heavy profit margins at the top. It's not like the UFC is hurting for money. Yeah. And so, you know, that's the only reason there is a market standard. I mean, that's kind of like my short answer for it. Really what dictates the market standard for fighter pay?
I don't know. Do you?
Well, no,
the highest bidder, and the highest bidder is always the biggest company, which is the UFC.
Right, which is kind of, and that's the thing is like, so especially in fighting where there isn't a disclosure about all the revenue and stuff like that, and there isn't like an agreement. I guess that it is kind of like that's the market. That's it, but they're just the ones determining that. You know, it's not like there's not something driving that like other than what they're saying and what they want their profit margin to be. Does that, you know what I mean?
I think a simpler way to ask the same question would be, do you think UFC fighters, for example, should be on par with like NFL players and NBA players? Like, you're all pro athletes, you're all at the highest level. Is that a conversation that people should have?
I think so. I think that it should be, you know, it's just hard because it's such a, I I mean, it is a really new sport, so we're not going to start having that conversation until something, I don't even know what got that started in football and baseball and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So what's the point when that conversation starts happening, I guess? But yeah, I mean, of course, do I think that there should be, and Cubs brought up healthcare, I think, a couple times publicly, and there should be retirements for fighters and things like that, because again, there is all that stuff for pro athletes, and as much as we're independent contractors, we're not, they're not at a certain point. So I think the structure of it is you have to take a real systemic look at how things are ran, which I think is you're not going to get even in the next 10 years. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think what's so interesting about any kind of like sport like that, where people can be employed as contractors is, and I'm sure I don't know what the verbiage is. I've seen a few contracts, but like the general legality of contract work, of any kind, dictates that as a contractor or freelancer, you cannot be required to be certain places at certain times, to use certain services, to use certain equipment. Like that is the nature of contract work, is that you cannot be required to do all that. And if you are, they are obligated to treat you as an employee. I'm sure there is like some kind of loophole or verbiage that allows for this, obviously, to be the standard in sports for an MMA. Otherwise it wouldn't continue to happen. But I've never wrapped my brain. I've almost had legal battles myself over the contractor versus employee definitional legal standard. And that's a big part of it. And it's just not the way it works in MMA. And it blows my mind how that's possible.
Well, yeah, I don't. And again, all that stuff is would be way above my pay grade, because I don't know how contract law or any of that stuff works. But yeah, I mean, if I'm an independent contractor or a subcontractor, essentially, that means I can take my services anywhere, kind of a thing. And you can't really require me to do a lot of stuff that the UFC does, or own my image, kind of a thing. I don't get it. And I think a lot of fighters don't get it. I think we just want to fight, and I think now that MMA is becoming the billion-dollar business that it is, you're going to see some more heavy hitters on the legal side of fighters stepping into it, trying to figure out how they can essentially make money off fighters as well. And that's going to mean them getting into some legal battles with the bigger organizations,
Do you see yourself ever going into that? I mean, when you do decide to stop fighting, you mentioned your wife was like, what are you going to do next? Do you see yourself going into management or coaching or trade, any of that type of thing?
No, I had a gym for a while. I don't like running a gym. I like teaching people, but I really like making houses. I mean, I do remodels and stuff like that, and I really enjoy that kind of work. So I enjoy hitting people and getting hit, and that's about it. That's as far as I enjoy, and I like watching that, but that's as far as I want to take my involvement in this. The whole idea of fucking hammering out a contract with somebody sounds boring as fuck to me, and I don't want to do that. I mean, that's not why I got into martial arts. I got into to fight people.
What about judging?
Something you'd ever do? That.
Yeah, I think I would do judging and or officiating or something like that, because I think that's kind of cool, and you get kind of a front row seat to it. Yeah, I would do that. It's just the idea of coaching or managing just seems fucking monotonous and boring.
I love it. I can see you enjoying refereeing for sure. I mean, I don't know how you feel about being the guy that makes sure everything is absolutely on the up and up and perfect, but I could see you loving to be still in the middle of things, but not in the same way as you used to be.
Yeah, I would love that. That sounds great, because again, you're kind of in it, and you kind of have the adrenaline rush still going, and it's. I mean, again, I'm an adrenaline junkie, so being in it for that is one thing, and then, but yeah, managing people just sounds fucking boring to me. I have no interest in sitting down and hammering out contracts and walking away feeling like I did something amazing.
Now that you say that, though, I think the standard is obviously if you're going to stay in the sport to coach or train, maybe not manage so much. I don't know of, off the top of my head, anyone else I can think of that went from fighting to officiating other than Trigg, and other than you mentioning it. Are there other fighters that have gone that route that you're aware of?
I think Lieben does it a little bit.
No shit.
Really?
Yeah, he does some officiating out in California. But yeah, Frank Trigg is the only other one I can really think of. No.
I want to see that happen more. Like, we have this talk a lot when we talk about battle rap and like judged battles, is that, are battlers not the most qualified since they know literally all of it? I mean, same thing with fighters, right?
Yeah, who's better to judge a rap battle than a rapper, right? And same thing with the fight, who's better to officiate a fight than a fighter? They know what to look for.
Do you think there would be any possibility of like bias there or no in sports?
Well, so I would like to say no, but we're all fucking people, I mean, there's no way I could officiate like a friend's fight. I'd be like, oh yeah, man, fucking totally won that fight. And I would like DQ the guy for whatever he did.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, officiating is different than judging. Like, for officiating, there's a very clear cut.
If you touch the fucking fence, I'm taking 2 points. Not even a point. I'm taking a couple points, All
right. So we need to have Ike officiate in Siberia.
Yeah. Nowhere I can influence anything,
That's amazing. I would love to see it, though. Like, that would honestly be not at all what I would have expected you to say, but like, what a way to really stay involved, because you have to keep up with things. You have to be actually involved. You can't just one Saturday be like, maybe I'll call a fight today.
No, and you also have to continue to train, right? Because MMA is an evolving sport. And if you're not looking out for stuff constantly in it, like it's passing you by. So I think some of the best officials like John McCarthy and I think Herb trains and a few other guys still, I mean, I know they train, so they're constantly seeing the sport progress, and I think and that's a good way to stay involved, not only with the fighting part, the cool, like being part of the promotion part and still having the adrenaline rush, but you're also getting to train yourself, and you have to continue to train.
So when these guys train, do their calves grow, or do they have tiny calves also?
Well, only Jon Jones has the tiny calves. I don't understand. That dude is like, he's an anomaly. Like, the first thing I looked at in that picture when he posted the picture of him being all huge was his calves, because I was like, dude, fucking. And I love it. I mean, like, I've always wondered how John is like one of the most explosive guys in the world. And then you look at his calves and you're like, how do you even do anything?
Dude, like, how do you stand? Honest to God, I laughed so fucking hard when I saw that, because I've had some harsh criticisms of John over the years, and I make no apologies for any of that. But one of the top ones has always been, I fear for his physical safety with heavy kickers because of his legs.
Because of his legs, right? And you're like, yeah, I get it, because you're like, how the fuck do you not get your legs chopped in half?
Mm-hmm.
And never mind the fact that it's not like he's a short, small guy with spindly legs. He's like 10 feet tall. That's a lot of legs.
Yeah, it's a lot of legs. Yeah.
So back to the reffing.
It's one of life's mysteries that we'll never know.
Back to the reffing thing for a quick second. Who do you think the one or some of the worst refs you've ever seen have been?
Well, I know some of the best are Jason Herzog and that Mark Smith guy, but I mean, you can't ask me to say fucking who's the worst and then they ref your fight. Yeah, that's a real dick move.
Yeah, well, I figure you're gonna go with like a Kim Winslow, someone who's not even allowed to ref anymore.
Yeah, we'll go with Kim then, because she's not reffing. But Jesus Christ.
He was brutal. Well, wow. I know you're smart enough not to say fucking, an active referee nowadays. But I think
I'm not that. You're giving me way too much credit. I'm not that smart.
It was funny when I interviewed years ago Ricardo Almeida about him moving into judging, and I asked him about conflict of interest. He's like, "Well, I don't think they're going to let me ref any or judge any of Frankie Edgar's fights." because they train together and shit. But
yeah,
he said they found a way to work around it. And I'm like, I don't know. You're Ricardo Almeida. You got a lot of ties with a lot of people, or Henzo does, or Frankie does, or whoever the fuck does, right? There's third party ties even.
Well, I'll answer the question. I pick Yves Levine.
Really?
Do you not recall him coming on my show and telling me I was an idiot?
Yeah, but that's a personal.
Well, you just
thing.
hate him personally, but that doesn't mean he's a bad ref, right?
He fucked up real bad that one time.
He did. Yeah.
when Drago Pete Sell was his name? Yeah, he fought Matt Brown. He stopped the fight, then let it keep going. And Drago was out on his feet, stumbling around, and Matt Brown just kept fucking him up and looking at it. He was like, "Yo, stop this, man! What are we doing here?" That he fucked up bad that time.
So wait, genuine question here. Honestly, not trying to get anybody to talk any shit. I have been quite disconnected, as I've said earlier, recently. I feel like compared to yesteryear, there has been a moderate amount of Herb Dean slander in the last couple of years. Now, is that slander, or have there been some questionable situations?
I think I think Herb's a very good ref. And I think if you, just like any other career, if you're doing it a lot, you're gonna make mistakes, and it sucks because the mistakes come at people's health. But I mean, Herb's a good ref, I think. Again, he refs a fucking lot of fights,
Oh, right.
I like Herb too. So I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen it. I mean,
if we're being fair, Herb is my favorite. Like, I'm not trying to get anybody's shit on him.
No,
I just feel like I've noticed commentary a lot more often recently than I ever used to. And I was like, I can't picture Herb like going off the rails, but I don't watch that much anymore. So I don't know if this is like interneting or if something like happened.
Well, and I think that, so again, Herb, if you let a fight go for too long, everybody's going to jump down your throat, and they're going to look for anything that you do down at that point. So if Herb made a bad call at one point, everybody's going to start jumping down his throat, because that's what the internet does, like you said,
True that. I was just curious. I love Herb. I have no Herb slander here. I hope you're on Grace forever.
And I like Herb too. And I was just trying to think of a way to put that, because I mean, again, Herb has made, just like anybody else, probably made some mistakes in there, if you show me somebody who hasn't made a few mistakes in their career, then I'd be fucking pretty amazed,
Outside of being the actual fighter in the cage, the one doing the punching and getting punched, would you say that refereeing is the second hardest job, or the hardest job?
I would say so. I would say refereeing, and honestly, this is where I will give Dana a shitload of props, is promoting is fucking hard, man, especially at that level. Like whatever Dana White is doing, he does in the UFC, the kind of the UFC machine, they do it really well, because I mean, they promote the hell out of their fighters. So I'd imagine that, I think promoting is pretty tough, because you watch a lot of organizations fold real quickly because they don't know how to promote stuff, So refereeing and promoting, I would think,
When you first got that call to the UFC, what were some of the biggest things you noticed, like handled behind the scenes at the venue, all that shit, compared to where you came from?
So they just had the UFC has their shit together. They're a well-oiled machine. I was always impressed. There was a woman named Melissa Henricks who was with them, who was like the operations manager at the point, I think. And she was, I mean, just watching her work, she was badass. I mean, they're well-oiled. They've always seemed to have been a well-oiled machine when I was there, compared to like kind of the shit show that is regional MMA, and even the well-organized regional cards are still not the same as like the UFC,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even working media for regionals, or even like a Bellator compared to UFC, Yeah, it's a big difference. I remember one of the UFCs I covered, they had like a fucking spread for the media. Sandwiches, donuts, and muffins. I was like, what the fuck is this?
My favorite thing to do was to go in after a fight, or like if somebody else is fighting, and go into the media room and steal all their food.
Dude, honestly, I remember one time not wanting any of the food, and people were like, excuse me, what? And I was like, I'm good. And like, it was like offensive to not get in on the media spread.
Yeah, you have to. It's like not taking advantage of craft services on a movie set or something. Like, why the fuck wouldn't you?
Do you remember the MFC? It was based in Edmonton, Alberta. Mark Pavlovich.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. They came to Ontario, the province I live in, one time. And the reason Mark said he's never coming back is because he can't use a ring here for MMA. You have to use a cage. So that pissed him off because he liked doing the ring. So that's why he never came back. But so they did one show here, and I went to it, and like they had buckets of like ice with water bottles in them. The water bottles had MFC labels on them. The little plates you take for the little spread they had MFC labels on them. Everything you could see had MFC labels on them. That guy was all about branding. I mean, I'm sure they didn't, contract the water from some water company and get them a bottle and everything. They probably made the labels, cut the labels off fucking Evian or something, and wrapped them around and stuck them.
Yeah, I mean, Brand. So the guy from MFC, from what I remember, was really, really. I mean, he did a pretty good deal, right? I mean, like, and branding's a big part of that. Again, promotion. So promotion, branding, all that kind of stuff, like, is super important. So if he's doing that, it's impressive,
Yeah, Mark Pavlovich had a good run. It's just, I mean, the reputation that I was told from a lot of people, basically, and I heard this line more than once. He's a used car salesman. So he did a good job with his organization.
Every promoter is a used car salesman. That's like, yeah, fucking duh, dude. I mean, you're not saying anything new. I mean, it's kind of what promotion is. You're selling. I mean, you're fucking selling some goods that you're not sure if they're going to work or not, really.
That's the best explanation. You're on fire with the explanations tonight.
I'm trying, but I mean, like, really, MMA is a real new sport, so like, it really is like there's a certain amount of fucking shake and bake that goes into fucking pushing it.
Speaking of promotion, wait a minute. Speaking of promotion, I always get the vibe from you that you extra love the bare knuckle thing because you're like, that's a real fighter's fighting. Is that really how you feel, or is that just like you're selling your fights?
You mean
it's more violent, it's more blood, it's more real fight. Like, I always get this feeling from you that you're like, I like bare knuckle because it's bare knuckle.
I do, because it is so. That isn't. There's something very thrilling. I like it because it's like that next level of adrenaline. It's that much more thrill. I mean, it's fucking scary. So I like it because it's bare knuckle and it's very much combat,
I don't even know. Have you had any serious injuries throughout your career?
Just my back.
Just your back, yeah.
Yeah. Just my back. But I mean, other than that, everything's pretty superficial. I had to get like a arm surgery for stuff getting broken and shit, but I mean,
no big deal.
Well, serious injury is like, I think, less of an arm break and more of like you blew your ACL or something like that,
Coming from the guy that doesn't want to see legs flapping around online anymore, I really thought that's where you were going to go with that.
Oh, no. I never want to see that again. But I mean, like, that's a pretty serious injury. But I mean, like, just a regular break or something. I mean, like, there's nothing worse than soft tissue damage because you're immobilized, I feel like a break isn't that bad. I still never want to see that shit again, but.
Bro, can we talk though for a moment? Like, not to take away from how traumatic and horrifying and awful that is, but like, what are the literal fucking odds of that being the same person involved in both?
Oh, I know. I like half my thing was horror of watching Chris's leg. Are you leaving? Hold on for 1 second. Are you taking off? Where are you guys going?
Target and get my car washed and the vape.
Okay, sorry, I'm doing a podcast. Sorry, I was saying goodbye to my wife real quick.
Bring home a new pair of Crocs.
Did you hear that? She hates. So my wife hates that I wear Crocs. She got me Crocs, and I wear them everywhere. And I'm like, and she hates that I wear them everywhere.
You should.
She's like, yeah. She's like, why? Why are you doing that?
Because they're like walking on clouds. But anyway.
They're really nice. But she says they're unflattering.
Okay, wait. Here's the fairest assessment. They are the ugliest thing ever known to man. But if you've ever worked in a hospital, nursing home, kitchen, or anywhere like that, you would absolutely be as ugly as possible to have your feet feel good like that.
Yeah.
It should end there.
Yeah, she said it should end there. Like I wear mine. I do wear mine in an obsessive amount, like to dinners and stuff like that. Dinners. Yeah, nice dinners. Her friend got a promotion in the military, and I wore it out to dinner.
Bro, see, we should have had her on. We went all wrong with this. This went sideways.
Yeah.
No, I do love that she's pushing your balls by buying them, and I love that you were absolutely driving her crazy by continually posting them.
Oh yeah, she hates it. I mean, she realizes that she did something very wrong by buying me those.
Okay, sorry. Back to the odds of Chris Weidman.
Oh yeah, so Chris snapping his leg, or Weidman. Yeah, Chris Weidman. That's his name.
That's his name.
I couldn't remember for a second because I'm dumb. But Weidman snapping his leg is fucking. That was nuts.
But the odds.
The odds of it happening. I mean, like. That was half my amazement. It was like, oh my God, that's awful. And oh my God, that was Weidman doing the exact same fucking thing that happened with him.
I watched earlier this week. He was on Ariel's show, whatever it's called now. I think it's called the Ariel Helwani MMA show or some shit like that. But anyway, Weidman was on there, and I watched that segment of it. And he was saying that he started singing when he was in the cage, when they first started trying to like stabilize him so they could move him. And he started singing, and just, Ariel asked him, well, why the hell were you singing? And he's like, I just did not want to think about that at all. So I started doing anything else to take my mind off of it.
Yeah.
And he started singing. And I mean, part of that has to also be some sort of shock, I would think.
Oh, I'd imagine so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something horrific just happened to you. It's the same thing as like, I just kind of like, I do the same thing when I cut myself or something weird at work. You just kind of like, you kind of go into a weird state.
Mm-hmm.
What was the, oh my God, I'm drawing the biggest blank. And I tweeted about this for days. I don't know how, I don't remember who it was. What about the recent finger thing? That same thing. Like,
yeah.
The one that got
PFL.
detached? Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. The finger's not, I mean, you got 10 of them, right? So
no, look, I used to be an EMT. I worked ER. I am one of those morbid motherfuckers that thinks this shit is fascinating. However, when you see it as often as you do when something like that happens in MMA, all the tweets, all the GIFs, all the videos, all the interviews, it actually gives you time to think thoroughly about it and actually like put yourself in that thought, like, what if that happened to me? It's not just like oh my gosh, I got to help this person go on autopilot. And I turned into this person where people who know me are like, what is wrong with you? Like, you think shit like that is cool. And I'm like, it's cool when you see it for an hour and fix it and send them home. It's not cool to see it on a loop for 6 fucking months. Ah!
Yeah. I guess, that's bad.
But I did want to follow up on it, and I didn't. That, like, the one thing I missed after, so when it happened the first time with Anderson, I was in Vegas for that fight, and I just remember it being such a chaotic, obviously, like, chaotic, frenetic thing that I wasn't at that time following what like Twitter was saying as much. Like, I was still podcasting. I was still with the last website me and Jason were both with. I was still doing all this stuff. So I didn't pay attention to like a lot of the chatter. And so now when it happened again with Chris, I was a little surprised, and I'll admit I didn't go Google it, which is why we're talking about it now, because I too am dumb. I didn't realize that at some point he purportedly said when it happened to Anderson that was karma, or he deserved it, or he trained for that or something. Was that a real thing that happened?
Oh, I don't know.
So apparently when it happened to Chris, people were like, I saw a boatload of people being like, that's that karma. That's that karma. And I was like, what in the world? Like, Chris is a nice guy.
Yeah,
and
super
then,
nice guy.
Right. And then I finally started seeing people saying, like, that's what you get for doing interviews right after it happened to Anderson, talking about training for that very scenario. And I was like, what? That didn't happen.
Ray Longo was teaching him like how to check leg kicks. I'm sure Chris had, some idea to check leg kicks, but really teaching him how to do it really well because of Anderson's whipping fucking leg kicks. And the intention wasn't like, this is how we're going to win the fight and break his shin. But I mean, if you get enough leg kicks checked, you're going to start second thinking before you start whipping them, right? It's going to cause some problems, right? So that's what it was. But the thing I think that people were going on about, which is, I mean, stupid kind of, it is stupid. Fucking Chris celebrated after the victory. Now, not like Chris Weidman and I are good friends, but over the years, I interviewed him tons of times and built a good rapport with him. It's not like he was an asshole. And if you also remember, after Anderson broke his leg, the corner audio came out of Ray Longo saying, good, fuck him. Ray Longo said afterwards, it wasn't like he was like, his legs broke, good, fuck him. He was hyped up even, right? And they're like, oh, Anderson's injured. He's like, good, fuck him. And it's Ray Longo. I mean, what do you want him to say? That guy's not the type of dude who's going to be like, oh, no, is he going to be okay? That's not how Ray Longo talks. Right? The criticism was, I think, very unfair towards Chris.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and at a certain point, especially like right after something happens, you're like, the coach's energy is up, your energy is up. Mm-hmm. You say some shit about, I mean, you just want a fucking big fight, and it's not like a sporting, like any other sporting event. It's an actual fight.
Yep.
So I think I think the karma people are dumb. I think that people reading into what was said right after the Anderson fight is dumb, because Chris is, like I said, he's a good dude. I mean, I don't think that he would, So here's the thing. So I always check I check leg kicks, and I want to hit your ankle every time, right? Because I want the fight to end. I'm trying to break your fucking ankle so you don't kick me again. Mm-hmm. Do I want that to happen? No. But if it happens, but I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. You all are also fighting another human being. So I don't know what people expect,
That's like another thing that has caught a lot of criticism over the past 5 years or so. John does it a lot. Holly Holm does it a lot. And you've seen other fighters pick it up more, but not do it as much. That like turning stomp on the knee when your leg is completely extended, you're standing on it. It's not illegal. So like fucking, and I'm sure none of those people really want to snap the person's leg completely in half, but it is an effective move, and it can hyperextend your leg. It can fuck up the way you move in the fight. It can make you, try to avoid it so you can't get your offense off. It's a legit technique, and it's not illegal.
Yeah, and it's again, and at the base of this, it's a sport and everything, but you're in a fight with somebody, so you're trying to hurt them, and they're trying to hurt you.
Yep.
I mean, people. I think this is where I get like a little. People need to fucking ease up on shit. I think there's classy ways to handle when you hurt somebody, but like, you're fucking trying to hurt somebody. Yep.
They call it the hurt business for a reason.
No shit. And look at the Chris Weidman thing, right? Like, he beat Anderson, and Anderson was like unbeatable. You know what I mean? He had this mystique. He's on this huge run, champion forever at middleweight. Chris beats him by knocking him out. And people are like, well, Anderson was clowning. He didn't take it seriously. So the rematch happens, and Chris beats him again. Right? Like, it's not like fucking his legs broken. He was celebrating about that. The emotion going through him must have been insane. Like, I beat the guy that a lot of people say is the GOAT. I beat him fucking twice.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, that's something to celebrate, not the leg break.
Yeah.
I mean, I just didn't want anything. I didn't want to see that ever again. If they never ever talked about that or any of the fallout after it again, I would have been absolutely okay with all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
On another random note, because that's what I do here at the show, talking about fighters that maybe we don't talk about so much anymore. I learned recently, because of you, actually, that Sean McCorkle still exists.
Because of me?
Yes, I saw you. Who'd you retweet? Adam Hunter, the podcast.
Yeah, the big sexy. Because he was interviewing Sean McCorkle.
I did. Honest to God, I forgot that guy. I used to have him on my show pretty often. I forgot is he still fighting?
I don't know what he's doing. Honestly, I don't think he is, but he's always pretty entertaining.
That's a word, yeah. But you do know what Adam's doing. So what has he been up to?
I mean, he's doing his comedy stuff, and I mean, he's got a kid and everything, which is cool. I like Adam a lot. I think he's a really good dude. He's a good dude and a good dad. So I dig that dude. I like seeing him whenever I can. He's a genuinely good person. So it's always nice hearing from him.
Did he? I feel like I saw somewhere. Did he recently end up signing for some kind of series or like a contract with a company, or is he on like Fight Pass with his shows? Like what? He's doing something.
Yeah, he got on Fight Pass, and I don't exactly know. I think he just had a special on Fight Pass, and that was it.
I don't understand.
Why?
Because I don't Fight Pass. I've never once ever Fight Passed. Never. And I refuse to. So is that a thing that they do on there?
I don't know. I don't Fight Pass either.
I've never.
I did it when I was with them, and they gave it to a subscription for free. I did it, and then I haven't really watched it since, except for when there was like fights on that I wanted to see before they went to ESPN.
You know what he did? Actually, I completely forgot about this until just now. I don't know how they decided on who these people were going to be or who it was that knew people, but when everything first shut down last year, I was still living in Brooklyn, and the closest, or maybe the only, like super legit like comedy club in Brooklyn also had a bar, as you might imagine. So like they were trying to limp along by selling liquor because they had changed the laws so you could have carry out at that time. But one of the things they were trying to do to like bring in money to even just pay their staff right at that point was, instead of trying to have shows, they were having comics get on Zoom. They would have like 3, 4, 5, 6 people and like a host on a Zoom call. And there was no like structure, which probably was the best part. It wasn't like a stand-up. It wasn't a roast. It wasn't improv. It was just people shooting the shit, but they happened to be comics. And you could pay whatever. If you didn't have the money, you didn't have to pay to watch it. If you had money, you could donate whatever you wanted. It was actually really dope. They did this for months and months and months. And I would get all these emails about it because I'd gone to the club in person at the time. And I was like, God damn it. Like, everybody's really struggling. I understand why you're email bombing every fucking person on your list, but like, come on with these emails. And no sooner did I think that, the next day I get this email, live tonight, Adam Hunter. And I'm like, what? And so I hopped on, and as it happened, I am dumb again. And I was wearing my Korean Zombie shirt. And so of the like 300 people, Adam's like, hey, somebody's in here wearing a Korean Zombie shirt. And I was like, this is not the time nor place to remind you that you do know me. And so now I have to turn off my camera because I hate this. And I don't think I've ever even followed him since then because I was just like mortified. But he was hilarious. It was awesome. That was like a really good venue for him to like just sit around with like 3 other comics and just shoot the shit and be him.
Yeah. I did one of those. I was on one of those Zoom things, and it was really cool to be. I mean, I was glad he was doing it because all that stuff was kind of, any kind of like comedy or normalcy was kind of nice during the pandemic, you know?
Do you know if the people participating in it were getting paid? I assumed from a lot of the actual Brooklynites that were doing it, they were donating their time, but I was always curious how that worked. Do you know?
Yeah, I have no idea either. You know, I feel like a lot of people did a lot of stuff, donating stuff during the pandemic just to fucking keep morale in the country up, you know?
I'm not going to lie. The weirdest shit after that, because then after he was on, then I was like watching the emails because I was like, why the fuck was Adam Hunter on this thing randomly? Right. And so then they had Macaulay Culkin on like every other week for like 2 months, which was also weird. And so it was actually bizarrely entertaining, though, because he's actually not that funny. But it was really weird to sit there for like an hour and listen to this guy who, since we were kids, has been in and out of the news and drugs and Michael Jackson. Like, you hear all this crazy, weird shit, right? And he actually sat there for like an hour, which seemed like a lifetime when you're trapped at home in New York City at that point in time. Like, talking about what it was like growing up in Manhattan in the 80s and early 90s and how life actually was as a kid. And it was like really, really cool. And I never thought, thank you, COVID, that I would have found myself as an adult human being saying, I just enjoyed listening to Macaulay Culkin talk for 2 hours.
Right? Yeah, me either. I don't think I'll ever say that still.
I don't think most people would say that, but I say all of that to say, like, what did the kind of work you're doing, if I don't know if you were shut down at all, and if you can't train or couldn't for a while, what were you doing early last year?
Oh, so again, my main source of income is remodeling houses, and we got even busier. So
really?
Yeah, we got super busy. People were sitting around with a bunch of time on their hands and nowhere to go looking at stuff they wanted done at their house. So it was kind of a good time to be in the business. And so I've always, as far as the training and stuff, I had a home gym I have like when I say a home gym, some bags in my garage and shit. Yeah, work-wise, we got super busy. I never slowed down during the pandemic, and I was pretty grateful for that. Neither did my wife with her job, So we got really, really lucky, because a lot of people took it on the chin really hard during the pandemic, and we didn't,
And you're out here like, please, more stimulus checks, not for me, but for all these bored assholes that want to work on their house.
Yeah, right.
I work in the construction industry as well, but not like actually building shit. I shouldn't be allowed to touch tools at all. But are you finding now there's a shortage on supplies, and plus a huge increase in fucking lumber, steel, everything?
Lumber's up ridiculous amounts, and it's hard to get stuff. Everybody's blaming one guy or another for it, and things are ridiculous right now. So lumber. So a few years ago, 2x4 was $2.98 at Lowe's down here, and now it's $7 or north of $7.
What?
For a 2x4? It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Like, I saw people saying that about lumber, but I never had any like idea of the prices, and that is insane.
Yeah, it is insane. And anybody so I'm going to blame Trump squarely just because I don't like the guy. But a lot of people are blaming Biden and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think the market was just reacting to everything being shut down and not being able to move and stuff,
This is way not Trump, but since everybody loves to blame everybody, I saw so many people today and yesterday specifically blaming Biden about gas prices. Forget the pipeline thing, because that had nothing to do with it. But that's what made me think of this. I'm not going to talk about Biden or Trump, because this will turn into an entirely different show. And while you and I are of the same ilk, I don't feel like getting in a conversation about any of that. I just want to know if you followed any of the pipeline stuff. Did you see today that they finally did announce that company did actually pay $5 million in ransom?
Did they really?
Yes, they announced, or I don't know if they announced it. They probably didn't want to announce anything, but I guess it came out earlier today that after saying late last week that they were absolutely not paying ransom, that they did actually pay $5 million.
Yeah, $5 million is probably a drop in the bucket for that company compared to what they're losing.
Right. So that was actually one of the things that came out afterwards, that like people that work in cybersecurity and oil and all that were saying, man, for that kind of ransom, or for that kind of company, you would expect like 25, 35 mil minimum. Like, that these people only asked for 5 million means that they aren't as experienced as we think they are, or they knew they were about to get fucked.
Yeah. That's like me going into it. Really kind of going, I could probably get 5 million out of these people. That seems like lumber. A round number.
I need gas and lumber while you're at it, sir.
Yeah, right.
You got to shoot your shot, right?
Right.
All right, Isaac, before I let you get out of here, is there anything you want to plug? Because there's a few things I could see you wanting to plug as far as mental health stuff, recovery stuff like that, or business stuff, or telling one of these goddamn promoters to give you a fucking fight. The floor is yours, my friend.
So I will always say one of these goddamn promoters give me a fight. As far as the mental health stuff, there's no place in particular. There's some places local that are really helpful, but I mean, like nationwide and stuff. I continue to hope that people just reach out and say when they're hurting and ask for help. It's the biggest thing that we can do. And really that's about it. I hope to God that we all get through this, without as much craziness as we've seen in the past year and a half. And that people like really start to open up about what's going on with them. Cause I think even people's reaction to COVID is a little bit weirder than it needs to be,
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. I don't have anything to plug.
I mean, you can plug your Twitter. You are a good follow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Follow me at IkeVF on Twitter, and Instagram's a new thing with the kids. So follow me there too. And I don't post a whole lot of pictures.
Someone give this man a fight.
Yeah. Somebody please give me a fucking fight for Christ's sakes.
All right. Thanks for your time. Look forward to doing this again. For Isaac,
yeah, for sure.
Vallie Flagg, Amy Barton, Kirill Kasatskiy. I'm Jay Kelly. This is The Building Downtown. We out. Peace.
Yay.
Building downtown. Building downtown. Building downtown.